You know how
All
that
right,
works.
I'd like to call the order of the Committee of the Whole for September 8th, 2020 at 5:06 PM. Roll call.
Alderman Madden.
Here.
Alderman Kubaki.
Here.
Alderman Engelhardt.
Here.
Alderman Kapusta. Alderman Terrence.
Here.
Alderman Hamel.
Not here.
Alderman Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda, I'm sorry, statement of public notice?
The meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes from August 25th.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. New business, mayor's proposed budget for 2021 budget. First of all, I apologize for getting this to you so late. I missed a week when I was in the hospital that week, and I wasn't able to meet with department heads until last week, and finally met with the last one this morning. So we're going through this. Literally an hour ago, Sharon was running copies. So. Not sure how you guys normally do this, so I'll feel free to give me direction if you just want to leave the. Okay, so I'll just go through and I'll read my memo for myself. If you have questions, feel free to ask at the end. Comments, anything. I'll read the memo and then we'll go over more stuff. This year has proven to be extremely challenging year with a number of negative factors affecting the 2021 city budget. The budget process started with over $750,000 projected deficit. Revenues such as interest income were down significantly. A number of replacement vehicles had been put off for a number of years. Levy caps in the past were not fully utilized, and our growth and reliance on technology requires more investments in hardware, software, training, and staffing. It's my hope that these investments will prove to be an added benefit to the taxpayers in the near future, as it should allow us to expand services and make employees more efficient. We also have a growing community, which requires maintaining and upkeep of more roads, parks, and city facilities. This 2021 city budget is built upon council-defined budget goals with desired outcomes in the best interest of the Muskego taxpayers. And in 2021, and the 2021 proposed budget is consistent with that measure. Based on and agreed upon comprehensive goals of the Committee of the Whole, the balanced budget, as prepared by the department heads and I, is proposed to have a low mill rate of 4.56, which is one of the lowest mill rates of any municipality in Waukesha County. Following are the 2021 comprehensive budget goals as approved by the Committee of the Whole. To apply net new growth as allowed per state levy limits, maintain a high bond rating, limit one-time funding sources, avoid depletion of special revenue funds, support economic drivers including TID creations and incentives, strengthen efficiencies through implementation and measurable shared services, recognize and respect the expertise of incumbent employees through competitive pay increases and benefit packages, abide by the general operating fund balance policy, budget goals setting as a collaboration between the Committee of the Whole, Mayor, and staff. Budget process. The Committee of the Whole will receive the 2021 proposed budget for initial review Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, tonight. Over the next 2 weeks, we will still be making further budget adjustments with the goal of lowering the impact on the proposed tax levy as you see. Committee of the Whole meetings will follow to further discuss and review and finalize the budget. The goal is to have an approved budget by by October 13th, with a public hearing and budget adoption on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. If there are specific questions regarding any line item, I encourage all the council members to contact the respective department head in advance to discuss the items to aid in identifying the precise information desired. Significant changes from the 2020 to 2021 budgets. Revenues. The proposed 2021 general fund revenue budget reflects a tax levy increase of $330,420, or 3.068%, as compared to the 2020 adjustment of $91,864, and is within the state levy limit. Within the state levy limits. Increased revenue is derived from new growth, improved property market assessed values, and utilization of unused levy cap limit from previous years. The additional funds will be utilized to offset expenditure increases in technology personnel, DPW staffing, employee pay scale adjustments, and merit increases. Furthermore, $190,355 transfer from the closed Community Development Authority Special Revenue Fund will assist in funding the police vehicle replacements. Also to be noted, the state has not yet provided the estimates for shared revenue and transportation aids, which are all subject to change. Under expenditures, the proposed 2021 general fund expenditure budget is in balance with the proposed revenue budget, resulting in a 3.08% increase over 2020. Due to the rising cost and planning assessment revaluation, $141,000 was required for an assessment reevaluation, IT network and programming, and public works contracted services and vehicle maintenance. In support of the goal to recognize and respect the expertise of incumbent employees, this budget reflects the Committee of the Whole recommended pay scale adjustment of 1%, along with a maximum 1.5% merit pay increase based on the average within the survey results for non-represented employees. The ratified police union agreement includes a 1.5% across-the-board increase and an additional 0.25% adjustment to the detective and specialist personnel. Personnel costs also include employee benefits, which fluctuate considerably from year to year. We are currently waiting from our consultants to see if we can realize some significant areas in this change, and we'll hopefully have that information relatively soon. Under taxes, per the 2021 budget goals, the entire available net new growth is proposed to help fund increased expenditures within the general operating and debt service fund. In addition to the general fund levy increase of 3.068% noted above, the debt service levy includes a 2.283% or $50,000 adjustment in an effort to maintain and plan for affordable future debt levels, as well as prepare for rising principal and interest payments. Based on assessor-provided data, the net impact will produce an estimated city tax rate of 4.56 per 1,000 of assessed value, or an increase of 0.087 cents as compared to the prior year. That completes my budget memo. Initial comments or questions, anything at this point, or do you guys want to just digest it and come
How
back
much
to
of
the next
the,
one?
I'm sorry, how much of the unused levy is being,
Sharon, do you have? So while she's walking up here, it's a 4-year rolling average of what's available. Almost nothing from the previous 3 years because we maximized the last 3 years. But 4 years ago, there was, what percent did we use? It's like 1 point.
Well, the dollar amount was 190,000 last year, and it dropped down to 150,000 this year. So we're looking at utilizing most of that.
okay.
We will be reducing it. The other sheet that I handed out, if you look on the right side, in the very lower
Can we turn her mic
corner.
up at
Yeah,
all?
we're working on that.
So look, I'm sorry, but looking forward, by carrying that forward, we've got that sitting out there for next year?
No,
No.
it actually drops off the sixth year, and we've
Okay.
been using more and more levy, almost the entire levy, so there will be zero within a few years.
If we don't use it this year, pretty much
This-
we lose that window of opportunity.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
The problem one of the problems, and I'm sure you're all aware of that, of not maximizing on something like that, is the percentage of growth that we have is actually less than our percentage of costs going up every year. So it's, at some point, you're going to get at a point where those two lines are crossing, and it gets to be a problem by not doing at least that minimum, because the levy caps are fairly, restraining, I would say, which is a good thing. That's the idea of them, but not maximizing that total amount like we did years ago comes back to haunt us in the future, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Sure. Okay.
Sharon, do you know when we're going to see the shared revenue and transportation aids? When will we see that?
Typically about the first 2 weeks in October, so it's very, very close to that
Okay.
actual hearing.
Any ideas? Can be close.
I'm hoping it stays the same.
Okay.
At the very least, yeah.
There's no
I don't know if
indications
that
that
would-
that's going to drop, is there?
No,
I haven't seen any rumors or anything.
Okay.
right. Because it's based off of, that's also based off an average of all of our road
Right.
expenditures and operation costs that are related, and
That should be pretty close to what we saw the last couple of years.
it should be.
Okay.
What, do we have any TIF districts coming due that are starting?
Yeah, we actually have 2 that are closing, and my estimates are approximately for TID 8 and 9 would be about $515,000 that we will have in reserve.
And that's for 2020 or 2021?
2021.
Okay.
It is reflected in the budget.
We have
but
more coming up in 2022 that you know of, or no?
No, the other ones will be quite a ways out, probably 5 to 10 years. But we will also be going through an assessment reevaluation, as the mayor pointed out, so hopefully that will help reduce the tax rate again next year.
As those TIF districts close out, is there any significant impact on our revenues from that?
What was that?
Is there a notable, any significant increase
By
in revenues?
closing the TIDs?
As the
That
TIF
will
schools
help
out?
reduce the tax rate, but it doesn't bring extra levy dollars into the budget.
So we interpret that by percentage of impact?
Yeah, it's
rather than-
equalized value.
Yeah.
It basically adds back
So it's
to our
not
base.
Not a dollar number we look at as
It would
much
be
as.
the tax, the mill rate. That's what would be impacted. Should help reduce that. It's
So by,
unfortunate.
I'm sorry, another
It was
topic.
unfortunate when it wasn't this year, because we could have applied that, and it would, instead of the rate going up, it probably would have been level.
So it just helps the general mill rate.
What
For
was
the-
that?
It helps the general mill rate for the entire community, which is a
Yes.
big plus, yeah.
Yes.
It shifts, it also, since most of those TIFs are, in fact, all of them are in business districts, it shifts the burden from families to businesses. So that's a good thing, I guess.
By closing out the CDA special fund program, that just kills our loan fund program, correct?
The loan program?
Yeah,
No, that is an entirely different fund.
it is.
These were
Yes.
incentives, I believe you used for the most part, didn't you? What was the
The one that we have noted, the CDA Special Revenue Fund, that was created many, many years ago with the Community Development Authority for businesses. It was never utilized for loans. It was just expenditures, lawyer fees, and so on. And over the years, the account has really not been active at all for probably 5 to 8 years.
About
And
5
it's
years.
mainly interest earnings that are sitting in there. So I believe that committee,
you guys decided to, I think it was right before I got in office, to shuttle the committee itself, or the CDA. I have not gone through and formally gotten rid of it yet. I just wanted to adjust that whole process at this point, because I didn't want to get a year from now and have to starting it up is a big deal.
Sure.
Closing it down is easy. So I just want to tread carefully on it. It's not meeting. I have no intention of going forward, but I just want to be careful with it.
So this
And that-
move doesn't affect that loan
No,
fund at all,
and-
but I know that loan fund program still doesn't have parameters to it. Am I correct?
correct. But we are utilizing a portion of that to help fund capital projects, the Hillendale project.
Help me with that again, I'm sorry.
The CDA you're talking about?
No, I guess just to go back to the one that we will be utilizing in the operating budget, that's also related to TID 9. That's when it was actually created. That loan has been entirely paid back, and that's another reason why we would use these funds. Back to the Wisconsin Revolving Loan Fund. Yes, that fund did close down, and there was probably about $500,000, but we're using a good portion of that to offset the Hillendale cost.
Okay.
Those are the two funding sources.
But there's still funds.
There are some
that
funds
would be
available, and as of 2021, we should have another $500,000 with closing TID 8 and 9.
When, and I know this is a little off the subject, but when will those parameters be available? Because the last time I inquired into it, based on a couple of inquiries I've had, I was told that there's no parameters for it.
What do you mean as far as the fund, what the parameters, what we can do with the funds?
Right.
So you and I had talked about that, the parameters. Okay, so there's funds are in the left from the revolving loan fund. Communities that got into it, like when we did, there are funds to do what we want with it. There were no parameters. The parameters were for newer ones. So we have a lot of discretion with that.
The council may utilize those funds however they see fit.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
So do we need to have a discussion on that, or how is that going to go?
Well, it's all part of the budget, so.
I mean, use as we want to. I mean, we're just going to talk about it through budget process and
Well,
tell us where the funds come from at that point, or
It was in capital
what?
when we discussed the Hillendale project. Those were the funding sources, so it was briefly discussed.
And going back to this last paragraph here, 4.56 per thousand, $4.56 per thousand assessed value, increase of 0.087. If I'm correct, is that like $26 per $300,000 home?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I just want to be
Exactly.
transparent on that so people understand what's happening. If we go this route and we approve it at what's here, or hopefully we find a reason to reduce the budget and.
Yeah, and if you, actually, there's a sheet, this separate sheet that was provided tonight. I'm still working on trying to.
I just wanted to point it out. That's where we're at right now.
No, and
Okay.
I appreciate that. But just from some of them that by the time I gave them to Sharon, she kind of gave me this really nasty look of, I have all this stuff printed already, don't you dare bring this in here now, look. Which she's entitled to do when I bring it in at the 11th hour. But just those changes without going into so far drops it like another penny. So it's 10%, it's a 10% reduction in the increase. So I'm going to keep on going through this a little more, but that's.
It's not a big deal. I just wanted to.
It's a little
just
fluid
give an
right
average
now.
out there. Like, usually we have a little bit of a review of what the average is when we're looking at it. So
Sure.
kind of, I think we used to use the base of $250,000 home, but I think we probably could raise that now.
We're
to-
using 300 now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rounder too.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
To have a zero increase, what's the number? The number
zero
of either
levy?
reductions in expenses or increase in revenue. To have a zero
It's at 300,000.
is 300,000?
33420.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's a 3.068. That's what you came up. Okay.
Correct.
And another thing I should point out in here, I didn't have it in my narrative. The council and Mayor Chavarati had a conversation before I came in about adding a HR position possibly. That is not accounted for in here. After going through it, starting with $750,000 deficit, I just didn't, and reducing other staff requests, I just didn't bring it forward at this point. I'm going to keep looking at it. Because I do think it's something that the system does need here, but it's probably something I'm going to have to bring through. If I bring it forward, it would be somewhat through the year of trying to find some way to fund it, and it won't be immediate.
What position was that for? I remember
HR
talking.
position.
Okay, that's right. I remember talking about it, yeah.
I'm trying to understand what you just said. Is it
So
off
you
for
guys
the year,
talked
or-
about adding an HR position, like back in
Yeah,
April.
Will that be done?
I do not have that accounted for in here, so right now I am
So-
not proceeding forward with that.
yeah. So
Did we-
you're saying,
Unless directed otherwise to do it, but
you're saying we
would have to
can't
come up.
really facilitate that for another year then? Is that what you're saying or
I'm
not?
hoping to look at it and see if we can get creative somewhat halfway through the year and find a way to make it work going forward, but
So,
I just don't see the dollars right now.
so what do we want to do with budget about that?
We'd have to come up with I would say roughly $100,000 more out of the budget.
So that's a full-time position, right?
Well, I think we should all be aware of that before we talk it's not the
That's-
largest impact, but it's important.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
And that's a good point you brought it up, because I definitely don't want to raise taxes, but I think we talk as a whole as an important position to have, so we have to keep an open-minded,
If that's
keep ourselves open-minded on that.
I would think it'd probably be, if it's direction and the council wants to go, and let me know and I can put it on a future call, but I think I should have that conversation with you as well, which I wasn't part of the last one. I supported the position, and I still do, but I think that before we go too forward, I should have a conversation with you guys as a group.
No, that's fine. Let's see how the process goes here, and I think legally, it's probably, Jeff, it's probably a good idea to have that, right?
Sure, you could have it on the count.
No, I'm talking
No, the
about the
position.
position.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And we do have people that are overlooking, watching
Right.
everything now, but you guys had talked about going a different direction with that whole position, so.
No problem.
That's
Like
my
I said, we just got to
understanding.
keep it open-minded, keep ourselves open-minded, and if we find somewhere in this budget that we can put it in, or like you said, during next year, I think it's a conversation should be brought forward rather quickly rather than later.
I agree.
What are we anticipating as far as intergovernmental funds? Which was, what? Okay. Okay.
Now you get to re-answer that for all the people watching at home.
Yeah.
So we have about 400,000 of state shared revenue, which again, we haven't received that number. We have some smaller amounts for computer aid. That's about $15,000. And the other one is, of course, the transportation aids.
But you have that accounted for in your,
Yes. I just use the
Just
same
use the
amounts.
400,000.
Yes.
And we'll know the exact figure hopefully before the 14th or whatever.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
now, is that counting COVID? Is there COVID money too?
There is, but not
The-
accounted in this budget.
Yeah, the COVID will be reflected this year, 2020. The grants will come in and offset the increased
And you have an estimate in here
expenditures.
on that then?
No.
No.
Probably,
Well,
I don't know, maybe
We're
50,000.
handcuffed pretty much on what we can spend it on. So we're allocated like $400,000. I would be shocked if we hit 100 of stuff that.
Yeah, well, you can use it for labor though.
You can use it for, some for labor, some for the election. You can use it for all kinds of sanitizer and cleaner.
That sounds expensive these days.
You can, like shielding, you can do that with it.
I didn't want to bring up a whole, I just wanted to see if there was
Sure.
money still, that's not accounted for.
We did
Not.
receive.
That would be in this year's budget, not next year's.
Yeah, we did receive about 18,000 from Wisconsin Election Commission already, which will be applied for any kind of election cost.
But that money would go into the general fund and would reflect on next year's amount of money available.
It'll show up in the audit and go into fund balance.
Okay.
If we have any.
Sharon, worst case intergovernmental funds, I mean, based on,
It could technically go down, $10,000, $50,000. Could even
okay,
more,
we're not talking
100,000.
hundreds of thousands, we're just talking,
I don't see that, but with the transportation aids, you just never know.
Okay.
I've seen it swing hundreds of thousands of dollars, but because of our expenditures, maintaining, they're pretty much staying the same, if not going up. That should keep our transportation aids equal or higher.
okay, all right, thank you.
One final thing I'll mention is I do feel fortunate for not having this revenue sources that other communities have, and I know that sounds weird, but I have a weekly meeting with the other full-time mayors in Waukesha County, which is New Barrel and Brookfield and Waukesha, and their budgets this year and going forward, it's just a mess because for one, they have hotels with room taxes. Brookfield's looking at levying this year for the hotel convention center that they just built that was supposed to be paid for through room tax, and now they're going to use property taxes for a number of things. So, sometimes it's good to be self-sufficient. Now, we do have a landfill that we rely on heavily that other communities haven't, but that seems to be more stable. Garbage seems to be more stable than hotel rooms, so.
It always will. Always will.
All right. Anything else? Dive into this, feel free. Like I said, if you have questions, reach out to department heads, myself. Department heads are probably better to get better sources for the info, but if I can answer it, I will. But it does help to reach out offline on these, and if you need to come in, all of them are more than willing to sit down and go over the details and what their requests are for and why they need them. So please utilize that.
Well, you have a list of funding options.
Well, I had a list of funding options that were given to me.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just sharing those. So, if you have questions on those, I can go through that real quick. So, if you look at the change, just a change of things. So, trying to think if is this already been pared down?
So one thing that, if you look on the right, the funding options, the one item that, a few items we're taking out, the new position, which was the computer tech, 72,000, that did come out. The DPW vehicle, 205,000. And.
Oh, the other one I should point out, it's not Dan's position. We're not going to fill that either. There's 3 people in Public Works that are going to be taking over that load, and they feel comfortable doing that. That was brought forward from the department head and the people that have to do it, and they're comfortable thinking that they can go forward without filling that. If it gets to be too much, then we'll make adjustments in future years, but they're comfortable with that.
Is that on here? Is there a dollar amount?
Dollar
No.
amount, no, it's not on this part.
Okay.
It's reflected in the actual budget.
Okay, I just wanted to know if you had it summarized. Okay.
Now, back to these options.
Yes.
I'm confused here. Are you suggesting, or someone in the cloud suggesting that we have, actually on the salary and benefit side, we have an IT network administrator, and that's an option?
It could be. That's a new position being added in. After speaking with the department head, we came to the agreement that the computer tech position could wait. The network administrator, with all the growth that we've had in technology and everything, it's either we're going to pay for it on this end or end up paying for it through consultants. So it seemed to be a need at this point, not a want. The DPW truck, Ryan was very concerned about that position that he's adding in Public Works, the highway patrol position. He feels that's a great need, and he thought the truck, where we're at with the truck, he could get by without it for now.
But those items are built into this.
Everything's built into
budget.
this right now. As far as, no, I don't, so the computer tech position, you know what, let me get an email out to you guys and explaining which ones we took out and which is left and which ones aren't, because it's kind of unclear at this point on what's on here from your viewpoint. I know.
Highway patrol, computer tech, and network administrator are on the left side of this too, so I'm assuming that they're part of the budget.
It was recent that we took out the 72,000,
Right.
117.
So let me send you out, we'll get it out tomorrow morning.
Just
if that's okay.
highlight this list here. If it's the same list, just highlight the ones that are taken out.
Yeah, we'll send it through with what's still of it, what's.
Anything
new.
added on, yeah, okay.
I apologize for the confusion on that. It was a last minute add to the.
But the vehicle, so these are not part, these are part of the budget right now.
That's why I want to get you
All right.
a completed list, so make it more clear. Some of these are in the budget, some of these are out.
Okay.
So the initial budget that I started with.
With the 750,000?
The 753,000 this stuff was all in it. Then we pared it back, took out a number of items and made adjustments there and other places. So like from your viewpoint, this is very confusing. The only part that's probably pertinent right now is that bottom part that says note items not reflected in the proposed budget are additional changes that I plan on making yet that aren't reflected yet.
But it looks like the 205 and 72,
Those are the
That's
two.
basically it.
That's basically
a big
it,
chunk of
yes.
big chunk of the difference between the 750 and the 330.
That was the biggest difference in the new things, yes. Then we went through and looked at existing budget items and made adjustments from there. Dan's position was one of them.
A lot of money.
I apologize. I ran out of time. All I
Yeah,
could do is print this out.
It's a short week, we'll give you a break.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and I put the pressure on her by just not being there that 1 week, pushed all my meetings back a week, and I actually met with the last department head this morning, so.
Have there been other requests for organizational funding other than the parade, senior taxi, and the lakes?
No, there's nothing new from anything, and I left those status quo.
Okay, the senior taxi was a bump up from last year,
No, they were 15,000 last year and 15,000 this
but a
year,
bump up from the year prior to that. by-
possibly.
By 10 grand, yeah.
Any other questions on this? All right, we'll continue this discussion moving forward at a future date. Next item is discuss polling place locations for the November election. City Hall will be closed for all walk-in business on November 3rd due to the high amount of people that we're expecting for turnout. And we want to be able to maintain social distancing as much as possible. So my thought, as long as you guys are okay with it, is to not allow people coming in for the permit or everything else. They can still drop things off and do things online, but just to try to eliminate some of the chaos that day of having a line of people that are coming in to vote and then somebody just walking by and say, oh, I'm just coming in for a permit. I think it's better just not to allow it that one day, if that's agreeable to the alderman.
Fine with me. I mean, we're going to pass the ordinance, or the state ordinance right now, right? Because that expires at the end of this month, right?
The what?
The state mask ordinance will be past
Oh,
that.
the mask, yeah, we'll be past that. But that shouldn't affect.
I mean, at this point, I don't see I guess it's not a problem to close, but I think it could actually, we could probably visit this and open too, depending on where we're at with the COVID and everything. So, I mean, we're looking down the road that numbers are dropping right now. So I don't know if that's what you're worried about, the COVID.
I'm more worried about just the having
Chaos of voting.
so many people in the building at the same time, and not from a COVID standpoint, but just
We're expecting a high
chaos. You
turnout.
know?
Okay.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
So is the election, is going to,
So, sure,
here?
Yeah, so the staff and I are proposing to utilize the library and city hall. The two largest districts are district number 1 and 7. So those would be held at the library in each meeting room, and the remainder of the districts would be held at city hall.
And the reason, just so because I get phone calls on this all the time, we're not going to open any other polling places. Tell me the reason.
The churches, everything's still pretty much shut down from COVID, the nursing
It's just hard
homes,
to find a spot or
Regency.
somebody that'll
Yes, they
allow
have
us in
not
there.
opened the door for us yet.
Security reasons and all
Correct.
kinds of things. Okay.
And I
Just so-
did talk to the other staff, DPW director, library director, and they're very on board. They agree. They support this proposal.
so the library is going to be closed as well?
No, the library's going to be open as per usual. It's closing city hall windows for walk-up business that day.
How much walk-up business do we get?
It's just, all of our staff will probably be utilized on November 3rd. I think we are going to.
That was my question. If the
Very,
staff
very
is going to use it, I
difficult.
can see it, but
Yep.
if it's just.
And we
you know,
actually use the recreation window for registration, so that,
Okay.
we'll be taking over
Oh,
that
good.
area.
Okay.
It
What
just
does the
works better logistically.
What does the library staff think about being open? I mean, just a question.
I did not talk to.
Maybe we ought to find that out. Is that going to affect them? I mean, it's going to
Well,
affect
it would
us
be
here.
the-
I know the library board actually controls this, so we actually had to get permission from them to use our building, but they were okay with that, but I guess the discussion of them being open or closed wasn't had. Because they're going to be using the meeting room, so it really doesn't flow into their normal workspace. So I can't imagine why we would need to limit services to the community for that reason.
My point of view on the library is that traffic is going to be intense there because they all have to come through that front door.
And most people use Janesville Road. They don't even know about the
Yeah,
side road.
and, you know, that's going to be a burden,
Good point.
both vehicle traffic and people walking in the door. That traffic is going to be very intense there if the turnout is
Yeah, we
typical.
may be able to utilize I believe they have
indoors.
side doors.
The side
by
doors
the
might
meeting
be
rooms,
useful, but people aren't used to that, so they're all going to walk in the
We would
front door
have
most likely, you know.
signage.
Yeah, your signage can work with it.
I mean, I'm more than willing to ask the library board to weigh in on
I
that.
think we'd be wise to ask them to really carefully consider it.
Okay.
If we're expecting that big of a turnout, you know.
Yep.
I mean,
We
I
have
don't
no-
know, the mail might turn out to be the big turnout. You never know.
I think the argument would be favored with, you know, it's inconvenient to library people, but it's, you know, the election's one time and it's very important, so.
Sure. No, I'll ask
I
them
think
have
we
the
need to sell
discussion.
it that way and say library should not, because I think the traffic is going to be powerful.
I will ask them to have that conversation,
Yeah.
just so we're aware that we have
Yeah.
no input, I mean, no say on that, so,
I understand that, but I would sincerely want to
sure.
try and press it to them that that's probably not to their benefit to be open that day.
So could you just
Yeah.
get everyone's approval if they're okay with the
Yeah, is
library?
everyone okay with
Yes.
the city hall part
I
of
am.
it and the split?
I'm still concerned with 5 districts here. You're on,
Well, we had 7. and now
yes, but
we're
on a
at-
presidential, it's just overwhelming. Yeah, I've
When
been-
was the last time we revisited that with some of the churches? I know that I just gave blood at one of the churches and they had it open for the blood drive. I mean, is it something that in the last week or so we've checked in with some of them?
Gosh, no, it was a few weeks ago,
Okay.
but I believe they're going to want the church cleaned, and it probably would be very expensive to
okay.
bring in a company and have that
Got
done.
it.
But I could check if you want.
Yeah, it was just, was a thought. I know that,
I think we talked about this a little bit before. It was an overwhelming task with everything going on for you to try to get more polling places, right?
Administratively, it was much better to have
Okay.
all the polling locations here. It made it so much easier, and I would actually request that we could keep it with the library and city hall.
You know, as long as we're talking only 2 spots, we can expand the hours of what people are standing in line, right? Till they're done voting, right?
It's 8 o'clock, so whoever shows,
Is
if
in
the
line.
line's
In
wrapped
line.
around the building, if
In
it's
line,
8
there's a
o'clock.
cutoff?
Yep.
Okay. I'm
So
just
then
trying to
we
be
have-
transparent here, so.
Yeah, we have somebody stand at the end of the line at 8 o'clock. So after 8:01, they're turned away.
And back in '04, '08 maybe, I can't remember which ones it was, but, you know, we had 200 people in line when 8 o'clock came, where I was at one of those elections. And it was 10:30 when we finally got the last of the line done.
Yep.
And some of us were there from 6 a.m. till 1:30 a.m.
And that was with 7 polling places.
But that was because of the way we conducted it at that time. They were coming in the door at 200 and we could only accommodate a little over 100 per hour. We've remedied a lot of that with the way we've adjusted, but we've also had the adjustments of the picture ID and the signing came into play after that. So those slow it down, but we divide the poll books and increase the speed that way.
Well, and the
And,
absentee ballots
yeah.
are, that
The
is-
absentee ballots have been constantly increasing, so that's going to relieve some of the pressure. But
Externally, not
it's
internally.
unbelievable what happens on presidential ones. They just come and come and come.
Yeah, we're projecting probably 50% of registered voters will be absentee.
Yep. And at 50% in a district, that's well over 1,000 people to process in the day.
So absentee is also early voting, right? That's the same.
You know, you have
Right,
13
okay.
hours with 1,000 people, you've got nearly 100 an hour minimum, even with a reduced number of in-person voting. It's still going to be very, very busy, trying.
Yes, it will.
Anything else on this? All right, communications miscellaneous business? Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 5:45.